everybody, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Camilla Cleghorn.
I'm Mike DiLisio.
Today we're taking a look at another entry into the Make Games About Nature category called Keystone North America. But this is definitely a pretty game.
So pretty.
Gorgeous.
I mean, it's using actual, are these drawings or pictures?
That's a good question. You know,
They're so good I can't tell. I think
can't
they're
tell.
drawings.
I think you're right.
I think
they
they're
are.
pictures that they draw over. Have you seen that where they take like a stock photo and then they'll draw over it to make it look hand drawn?
Yeah, I've seen
I know
that.
that's an art style.
Well, it'll tell us, I guess, in here if
Oh,
there's an
we'll see.
artist. You know, maybe we should have, looked this up before. I don't see it in
Probably
here
in the
anywhere.
front,
Game
wouldn't it be?
overview. Anyway.
Here, what's on the back of the box? Let me just.
It looks fantastic.
Yes.
Now, we have the deluxe version here, which comes with a play mat. We upgraded the pieces to wooden components. But the art is going to be the same in all of it, really.
Sure, yeah.
This is, I said it's yet another nature game, but it's also yet another put cards into a grid type game. Let's show you.
In Keystone North America, every player is going to have their own player board, and most turns of the game, what you're going to be doing is getting cards from this kind of market area here and placing them anywhere that there's an open spot on your board. That's called an introduce action. So there's only one of two things you can do. You can either take a card from this row, place it onto your board, or you can use one of these skills. So let's start with the introduce action. The first card to the furthest right away from the deck there is a free card. You can take that for nothing and put it anywhere you want on the board. Cards that you want further back in the row, you have to place what are called synergy tokens on each card that you skip. So for example, if I wanted to get this bearberry card here, I would place one token on the Arctic Wolf, and now I can place this anywhere I want on the board. What you are trying to do is create ecosystems, which are a series of cards in ascending or descending order in the same terrain. So this is an Arctic terrain. You can see that right here. Certain cards like this one have only one terrain on them. Other cards are going to have multiple terrains like this bald eagle. This could fit into one of three different ecosystems. They have to be in exact order. So you couldn't go 1, 3, 5 and count that as an ecosystem. It would have to be 1, 2, 3, 4 or 4, 3, 2, 1, etc. So place it anywhere you want in your board. That is most turns that you're going to take. These would refill. Like many other games of this type, if someone later on came and took this card that had that token on it, they would take that token for themselves. There are a number of different symbols on these cards that are important, not just for making ecosystems, but at the beginning of the game, you're also going to get a scoring card, kind of a end-game scoring card. And a lot of times these are going to relate to other icons that are on the card. So this is a season icon, a winter season. And if you can get that configuration on your board, it'll give you 5 points. The more of these conditions that you're able to fulfill, the more points you'll get. At the end of the game, if you can get all 4 of these things done, that's 24 points. So main actions are going to be taking cards, placing them into your row. They don't have to be placed in anywhere in particular. This, let's say if I got this bald eagle later, I could put it anywhere I want as long as it's an open spot. The other thing that you can do on your turn is use one of these skills. You randomly will choose 5 of these skills, place them out there on the board. There are more that are in the game, but you're only going to use 5 for any particular game. There's 2 different ways that you can take this use skills action. The first thing you can do is just pick one of these that are showing this white side, take the corresponding action. So for example, in this one, it's saying to get 8 synergy tokens. So you can just go ahead and get 8 of those, put them into your supply. And then what it's telling you is that you have to discard 3 cards out of the market row. That's what that second part is showing. So at that point, you would discard 3 cards. If they had any tokens on them, you'd remove them and you'd refill it. Then you would flip this to the opposite side. As the game progresses and more people are taking this action, you'll have more and more of these turned over. What you could do at that point is, if you wanted to take a skills action, let's say things were set up like this, you can either do what I explained and choose one of these 2 actions, or you would trigger all 3 of the yellow actions and you can do those in any order. So for example, say I wanted to do that, This is placing research tokens on particular cards, which are worth the extra points. You would do those, you would flip them all over, and then you're going to move this time tracker down, which is going to start on a particular value depending on player count. If this was set up as a 4-player game, it would start all the way to the left. You'd slide that down. That is one of the end game triggers. If this gets all the way down to the end, that will trigger the end game. The other thing that will trigger the end game is whenever anybody is the first to fill up their board. At that point, you're going to take on end game scoring. All right, so this isn't a completed board, obviously, but let's just talk a little bit about final scoring once you get to that point. The game comes with a score sheet that kind of helps you through this process because it is a process. You're going to be going column by column, row by row, and adding up the number of points that you have on your board. As I mentioned before, ecosystems are consecutive numbers in the same habitat. So let's look at this first column here. We've got 4, 3, 2, 1, and they all have this same icon here, so that is a completed ecosystem. This would normally be 4 points. However, if you look on this red mangrove card and on this mangrove tree crab, you'll see that key icon there. That is a keystone icon. Those are multipliers. Essentially what you're going to do is you are going to multiply it by the number of keys there. So we've got 4 points. They would be 3 times because you have an extra 2 keys. So that would be 12 points for that particular column there. Then you would go by rows. You also have these little tokens, which are called research tokens. Those are generally placed on cards by taking one of those use actions, and they give you an extra point towards scoring. One other thing that I wanted to point out is that there are wild cards. Here's an example of a wild card here. They've got them for all of the different habitats, forest, woodland, things along those lines. These do have a particular area, but they don't have a number. And so you can assign whatever number you want, and it could be a different number for a row and for a column. So in this case, this could be a 3 and a 2 because they are in the same ecosystem there. That would normally be 2 points, but because there's a research token, that would be 3 points. You're always going to choose the largest point value for each column and each row. You're going to add all those columns and rows up together. You're going to look at your secret objective card and add any number of points you may have received from that. You also are going to get a point for every 3 synergy tokens. Add all of those up. That's going to be your total. Whoever has the highest total wins Keystone North America. Let's head back over and let you know what we think.
Now, when I first, I pride myself on reading rules and getting the grasp of how a game plays.
Okay.
And in this one, I was wrong. In the sense of, I read the rules and I was like, oh, this is how that works. This is how that works. And then when I was done, I was like, no, that didn't work the way I thought it would work. So there's a couple reasons for that. For example, there's the put the tokens on the card track. This has been done in many games, Small World. I mean, it's a great mechanism.
Right.
I've always loved it. Put tokens on things. Okay, that means eventually a card will have so many tokens on, somebody will take it. But 2 things stop that from happening, which I realized once we start the game. Sometimes that card sucks.
Right.
And to take it, I'll get a lot of things, but I don't want to put it in my grid.
And there's no option to not put it in your grid. If you take the card, it goes in your grid. It's not
100%.
take the card and use it for something else.
And there might be a special action that lets you kill a card in your grid or something, but if that doesn't exist. So it could have a lot on it, but also all those actions let you kill cards, and you will be like, that card gives you 2 tokens? Nah.
Right.
And so that mechanism is basically just, I don't even know why you put them on a card. You might as well just pay the bank. So I found that not to be as interesting.
Sure, I understand what you're saying. There's a lot of times where a card that you're looking for, I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot of opportunity to hate draft in this game. And it doesn't feel like the kind of game where that would be as forward as it can be in this game.
It's not hate drafting, it's hate discarding.
Sure, well,
we were
hate
talking about what that
discarding,
even means. What thematically, were we killing animals? We didn't think we were.
Or
We were like, boo, go back into the forest.
Choosing not to take a picture and adding them to, you know what I mean? Just kind of a trail you don't take.
That's how the game plays. You sit there, you put the cards out, and when you take those actions, and by the way, I think that's a neat action mechanism, like take one, and then flip them over.
Yes.
Yes, I like that a lot.
But then, what cards am I going to kill? Every time I'm going to go,
Right.
Yeah.
you need these cards. Because I don't want to be mean, but I don't want you to win either.
Well, here's maybe a little pushback on that, although I agree with your sentiment. a lot of times games like this, which is everyone has their own player board, right? Has the multiplayer solitaire, judgment placed on it. This really isn't multiplayer solitaire in the sense that you very much are looking at what other people have going on their
Sort of.
But you're looking at what they are, and so it really just becomes only a negative interaction.
Right.
You know,
I
and so it's like,
I
so I
agree.
hear what you're saying, because
It is-
multiplayer solitaire, the bad word in gaming.
Yeah.
But this is only negative interaction.
I agree.
The only interaction is, how do I make this more difficult? How do I hold you back?
Right. You want
You
that
know?
bison? Nah.
Nope, not today.
Right.
Yeah.
I also have a problem with the cards themselves. So in the back here, they have the species card database. This is great. But I don't get it that much because there are cards that are so much better than others. For example, there's a coyote here who fits in all 4 terrains, and he has a key. And
Right.
he's a 3, which means he fits in the middle of a run.
Right.
He's not more expensive than the other cards.
Right.
And if it's your turn and I kill 2 cards and then it comes up and you have 3 and you take
Right.
the card.
Yeah, and it pulls
it's
it down within
clearly
range.
better than the rest. There's also more 1s than there are 5s because it doesn't make sense. It's not like the 5s are inherently better.
Hold
Yeah.
up 4, because I guess you could go 1 to 4. If you take a 1,
I'm saying
then it's a
3s,
1.
2s, 3s, and 4s are better than 1s and 5s.
Yes. Oh, there's more 1s.
Yeah, they're just more versatile. Yeah. Mathematically, I'm not going to even try to. That's your purview, not mine.
But you definitely, when you play, there are animals better than others.
Absolutely.
A 1
Sure.
that fits in 1 terrain
Yes.
and doesn't have a key on it isn't that good of a card.
And the
Right.
problem is there's not enough that you can do if there isn't a card out there in the lineup for you that fits within what you're trying to build. Outside of taking those special actions, there's not a whole lot for you to do. So you just kind of wait. And so, do I just take something because maybe I can squeeze a point out here? Do you wait for that perfect card? It was a really mishmash balance of that, of how long do you wait?
Yeah.
And so for me, it ended up being like frustrating draft where it's like, fine, I'll just take that, whatever.
I'm not nullifying what you guys are saying completely.
Well, I'm nullifying whatever you're about to say.
So here's my pushback to what you're saying as far as why would I ever take that card? I've got to put it in my thing. It's not going to be great for, I can't remember what you call it, the line, right? And that's in those scoring cards. The scoring cards you get at the beginning of the game. If you fulfill all 4 of those conditions, that's 24 points, which based on the scores in the games I've played at least, is a significant number of points. So I will tell you, I think sometimes worrying about the row and column scoring is more of a red herring. I think that the scoring cards are much more important than people might realize.
I do agree on that.
And I think sometimes I will take a card that has a lot of synergy tokens on it and is going to mess up one of my 3-2-1 rows because it does fit with one of my scoring cards.
But if that's the case, then why have that? If there is clearly one mechanism that is, we'll say, more powerful,
I don't know if it is.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm just
right.
saying
no,
if you
and
can.
I agree. My play as well was very much the same.
I've seen people
Then-
score 30 points on a row before, though, because
If you have
get
multiple keys.
You get a
You
bunch
get
of. You
all
can
that?
get one amazing row.
Sure, you could.
Yeah. I think the highest I saw was like 16, 17,
Yeah.
something like that. But still, it's like, but I mean, that puzzle of building your board, I think for some people would be very satisfying. But to me, it was so, the way I explained it, I was like, that you're backing yourself in the corner and you see it coming, but there's nothing you can do because you can't see the corner. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so you're just like slowly, it's this like enclosing in. Like Calico, but even more frustrating because it's not, there's no way around it. You know what I mean? Like there's no flexibility to it. I mean, you might have backed yourself in a corner turn 1 and been like, okay, well, there's nothing salvageable in this row now.
Yeah, you can do a little bit of moving of cards around, but you're right. It's
Right,
not a
if the
lot of
special
mitigation.
actions,
Not
yeah.
a lot of mitigation
Yeah.
there.
And so that's my biggest complaint about the game is that I feel like the 2 things that gold card you have and the filling the rows, they're not really synergetic at all.
Correct, yeah. I
Correct.
would
They're
agree.
cross purposes in most cases.
Yes, but comparing it to other games, like there's an upcoming game called Shelved or Shelvie.
My Shelfie.
My Shelfie.
Shelfie.
Yeah.
That does a similar thing. There's Role Player where
Yeah.
you're trying to match things, and those can match.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you play those games, you're like, I can do a lot, I just can't get it perfect.
Right.
And when I started playing this, I was like, oh, I realize I won't get all my rows. And then halfway through, I was like, I'm not going to get most of them.
Right. I might get one row, and I'll feel pretty good about, oh, wait, I got half of a row. And so it's like I got 2 cards here, no cards here, 2 cards here, oh, 3 cards here, and so it's just like, it really felt, I think there's not a good synergy between those two things, the personal goals or the board. You kind of go for one, which in my mind makes sense. Go for the goal, and then hope for the best with your board.
So let's take a break here for a moment from all this, and let's tune in to Mike.
Yeah.
So there's a campaign thing in this game. I haven't touched that, and I don't know anything about it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I guess to be clear, when my rating comes out, it is specifically for the solo game. I have only played the game solo. Mechanically, it's very similar to the multiplayer game. As a matter of fact, you're really not playing against an opponent. What you're trying to do is hit score thresholds, and you might have some special rules. So you play through it. They recommend that you play it in order. I believe there are 20.
So it's not really a campaign. It's more of a series of
It's a
games.
series of puzzles. Yeah, it's
Okay.
basically a series of puzzles, which I think works remarkably well for this game. You still get a scoring card. They'll tell you specifically which of the action tokens to have. Sometimes they'll have specific cards in the initial lineup row. Sometimes they'll have specific things that need to happen on your board. The score thresholds will change depending on the assignment. They put a lot of time and effort into this, to the extent that, to me, this almost feels more like a solo game than a multiplayer game, because the puzzle is so far forward and it works so well in that format. I'm not sure how I'll feel playing this as a multiplayer game. I really don't know.
Well, let me clarify that for
Yes.
you. I'm giving it a 4.
Okay.
I actively disliked it.
Okay.
And that's despite it looking amazing. Okay, I can't say enough good things about the art and the pieces. They were fantastic. Except, real quick, whoever decided to make the pieces 1 on one side and 3 on the other side,
Oh, I do
what
hate
on
that.
earth?
Yeah, I
because
do hate that.
you put them on the cards, and then sometimes you're scooping them up, and you're like, oh, I can't scoop them up.
Because I might flip
Were they
Right.
1s or 3s? And you don't even need the 3s. You should have just put in a whole ton of 1s.
Yeah, I agree.
But other than that, fantastic. The play mats, gorgeous, whatever. But I just can't get over the fact that it doesn't feel like sometimes I play a game and I'll go, wow, this card or this card. I never felt that with this game. I was like, that card and only that card works for me. And there's a lot of cards that are useless. We definitely had points where there's 4 1s in the lineup because everyone already did their 1 2s. And no one really wanted to take the card. The actions aren't particularly interesting. I like the system.
Yeah, the system's cool.
And there are sometimes interesting actions to the point, if I play this again, I'm picking the actions that go out there, because there was like one that said, draw the top 3 cards of the deck and pick one. That's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
But then there's one that says, put a token on a clock card. I'm like, I don't have any.
Yes, right.
Or take 3 tokens. Woo.
Yeah.
Just, I don't find that stuff as interesting. So because of that, it felt very chaotic, and the game gets less fun as it goes on.
Yeah.
To the point at the end, you're just like, is it over yet? Because at these last 2 spaces, it doesn't matter what I put there at all.
Right.
So maybe the solo game is the way to go, but for me, the multiplayer game, 4.
Yeah, I definitely, I agree with what you said. The game gets less fun as you go. And I think starting out, the first half of the game, I probably would have been like, wow, this is like a 7, maybe an 8. Like, I'm really liking it. It's gorgeous. Like,
Yes.
By the end, I was like, this is a 3. I want to start a fire in this box right now. Like, I was so just like angry. And
Smokey
it's just,
the Bear would not approve of
again,
that,
it's just
by
like
the way.
this corner that, and unlike, and I keep saying Calico, but unlike Calico, that's a puzzle where you're not going to get it perfect, but you still feel like you get something.
Yes.
I felt like at the end of this, I don't know if I had anything. I know that I got my personal goal, but other than that, we'll see. I just felt very little control over that.
So you are
And
saying a
that
3.
was- So no. So I'm sorry. I am going to come in at a 4 as well. I was going to do
not
a
a
4.
huge difference there, yeah.
They're like, oh.
Let me save it
Yeah.
for, it is absolutely gorgeous. I can't speak enough about just the table presence and the feel of the game, but by the end, I did not want to see this game again.
Wow. Well, I can't speak to that multiplayer game. I do want to try it. Even with your low scores, I do want to try multiplayer. But let me tell you, as a solo puzzle game, it's very good. I'm giving it an 8 as a solo game. To the extent, like I said, I really, the amount of time and effort that went into this was not thrown together. I mean, the puzzles are clever. They actually do change the way you interact with the cards and change your strategies and change the way you have to approach it. Very smart, very clever. a nice quick play time as well. So as a solo game, it's very good in 8. And now I need to try it multiplayer and see if it ruins my joy for the
And I
solo
feel like maybe
experience.
I need to try it solo, and maybe
Yeah.
it'll save the experience because
Either way, I do look forward to this. I suspect they're going to be making, since it's called Keystone North America,
Sure.
feels like they might make the same game over again with other spots.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And maybe this does work for y'all. It just didn't work for us. And, well, it did work for Mike.
Yeah,
So,
solo. Yeah.
well, there you go. Anyway, that's Keystone North America. I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Camilla Cleghorn.
I'm Mike DiLisio.
Animals are beautiful.
And don't start fires.